This week on the podcast, as we celebrate our 100th episode anniversary, have we got a treat for you for 2026 with this 3-part mini-series. Welcome to the Profit Cash Growth Podcast. This is the podcast for 6- and 7-figure business owners who are looking to grow a financially successful business. My co-host, Claire Hancott, is a finance director, chartered accountant and entrepreneur. And every week, I'll be exploring guidance and frameworks designed to help you increase your profits, improve your cash flow and grow your business. Who thought we'd have made our 100th episode? How exciting is this?
It's really exciting. And it's the start of 2026. So I just feel like...
It fell nicely.
It has felt really well. And that means that we've been doing this a whole 2 years now.
Yeah, exactly. It's because it's a hell of a commitment, isn't it? I think like getting to 100, we really should celebrate it. I think like something stupid. I can't remember the stats, like 90% of podcasters don't get past episode 12, I think.
Yeah.
So we definitely should celebrate it, and we are celebrating it with a 3-part mini-series, aren't we, this time? Because people are probably sat there thinking, why are these guys coming in my ears on a Tuesday this week?
Tuesday, Wednesday
and
Thursday.
This is just really confusing. And it's because we're combining both our 100th episode celebrations with our 3-part mini-series that we're going to do this week. So to get your 2026 up and running with a bang, you're going to get an episode every day for the next 3 days. It's going to be amazing. And the task that I've put to you, which I know you were like, oh no, is...
Well, we wanted to do something a bit different, didn't we? Like, the obvious thing is to kick off a new year with a planning episode of how to plan your business and things like that. But we thought everybody's doing that, so what can we do a little bit differently?
So what we thought we'd do is a planning episode, but no.
No, we don't.
My challenge to you, Claire, in this mini-series is you had the audacity many years ago to name your business Profit Cash Growth.
Yeah, we did. In fact, we renamed it. We started off as Business Geek, didn't we?
We did, and it became abundantly apparent what you were trying to achieve in the accountancy world. And just explain how and why it came about.
Because there's 3 core pillars that we speak to our customers about, and it's what I'm constantly challenging the team about. Every time they go to a meeting with a client, you need to go armed with a way to tell our clients how to increase their profits, improve their cash flow and grow their business. That's at the very heart of what we do. We're not going to a meeting just to talk about numbers. It's what actions and what takeaways can we get that actually make a tangible difference.
And this makes your accountancy practice so different, doesn't it? Because basically people see an accountancy practice as a place where you're looking at how you can always save costs, or primarily, how can I save money on my tax bill? And
this is really
just not in your title, is it?
This has really come to the forefront because I've been constantly recruiting over the past 6 months. I think we've pretty much had job adverts out constantly for finance managers, finance directors, because we're growing quite rapidly. And one of the key things that I ask in every single interview, no matter what level somebody comes into the business at, whether they're very junior or very senior, is can you talk me through a way that you would suggest a small business can increase their profits, can improve their cash flow? And if somebody tells me that they're going to cut costs or they're going to look at saving taxes, then they're simply not for my business. Don't get me wrong, they're absolutely valid scenarios, but they are like textbook classic accounting. And once you've cut your costs, there's no more cost to cut. So then what do you do?
As you say, it's always
it's a
one-off.
Exactly.
Cost cutting is a one-off event, isn't it?
Yes, and anybody, a lot of small businesses run very, very lean, and so there aren't that many opportunities to cut costs actually. So, don't get me wrong. There's always some bits that we can nibble away at and we negotiate things, but it's such small fry generally in small businesses that it isn't tangible enough to really move the dial on a long-term basis.
Yep. And increasing your profits, improving your cash flow and growing your business are constant, ongoing partnerships.
Continually.
That the numbers people can support with in the
business. They should be unlocking the data and the information behind it, that when they present a number to you, they should, as a business owner, you've got the knowledge of the business, the customers, the staff, the operations. The finance team have got access to that data and they should be able to pull those numbers out and present them in a way that allows the business owner and the operational teams to have these light bulb moments and they're like, I get why that number is moving in that way now. We need to do X, Y and Z.
So my challenge to you in this 3-part series is I wanted you to put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
And in today's episode, it's called Increase Your Profits. Tomorrow's episode is called Improve Your Cash Flow. And the 3rd episode on Thursday will be called Grow Your Business. And in each of those episodes, we're going to give business owners and listeners this week 5 tangible tips they can do in each of those pillars right away in their business to make sure that 2026 is an absolute knockout, aren't we?
And I think that's the thing, is these are not generic things. These are what we think are going to be most important in 2026 for you.
Well, let's just say they're the top 5 in each pillar that you would go to a client from day one and make sure that they're ticked off.
Not always. I think at the moment, in the current economic climate that we've got,
yes,
these
we have
are
tailored
our go-to.
we've tailored them to the macroeconomic climate as well as everything else, because there's different challenges in each of the pillars depending on where the markets are and everything.
But also, they're not relevant for every business. And I think that's the really important thing is that, we've tried to go with quite generic ones that will apply to a lot of our listeners. But if you are not sure whether it will or won't work in your business, drop me a DM on LinkedIn or an email or something and we can talk it through.
Awesome. So stay tuned for Increase Your Profit shortly after this week's news story of the week. So this week's news story of the week, Claire, is Morrison's loses £17 million VAT row over whether rotisserie chicken is hot.
Yeah.
This is very similar to, do you remember the big Greggs? Well, Greggs had it, didn't they?
Yep.
And then the big Jaffa cake thing was another one. It's not to do with hot thing, but these famous VAT rows are.
Well, the most common one was Greggs sausage rolls. Greggs argued that their sausage rolls should not have VAT added to them because they're essentially cooked to be sold. They're not sold hot. So hot food is vatable, cold food isn't vatable from a takeaway perspective. So if you go and buy a cold sausage roll, it shouldn't have any VAT on. If you buy a hot sausage roll, it should have VAT on. And there you can see the nuances in the British tax system. And I think this is quite poignant, really, because a lot of business owners, not so much the business owners that we necessarily work with, because they're a bit more experienced and they've been around a few years, but certainly when people are new to a business, they expect an accountant to be able to say with certainty whether they can do things, like claim certain taxes, whether they're allowed to do certain things. And actually, the UK tax system is based on, it's actually called a principles-based system. It's not rules-based. And what that essentially means is that pretty much nothing is black and white. Everything is open to interpretation of the rules. And the only way that those rules get challenged is by HMRC. And sometimes those cases end up in court, so you can read about them, and the case law kind of forms this basis of what people should follow moving forward. But something like this, I don't think there's anything in the tax law about rotisserie chickens.
Well, this kind of brings us on to episode 2 tomorrow, when we talk about cash flow, why it's important to always have good cash flow. Because you just never know. And tax is one of those where you can be certain today, but tomorrow you could find that you were wrong, or your accountant was wrong, or somebody was wrong.
Yes.
Because it is principles based.
That's really, really important with your accountant, is if you've got an accountant that's saying you can't do that or you can't do this, ask them for the
case law.
Ask them for the case law. Ask them for the specific bit of legislation that is black and white in your scenario, or the specific case law that applies in your scenario. If they're not able to do that, then actually what they are doing is applying a black and white scenario to a grey area.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, is sometimes our customers will ask us questions, it's black and white, you cannot do this. And we don't always go back with the case law, because that a lot of our customers don't care. They just want to know yes or no. But if it is a grey area, we'll say, look, this is the legislation. You could interpret it one of two ways. It's your risk to take as the business owner.
And you say this because once a case has gone to court and been passed, it sets a precedent for everyone else in that arena, doesn't it?
Yes.
So they can't then go to Asda, who's doing rotisserie chickens, and let them have the VAT. Now this has been cleared. That's the reality.
If the circumstances are identical.
So
what happened in this situation is Morrison's claimed that their rotisserie chickens that they sell in their hot food counters shouldn't be vatable because people take them home to eat them, to reheat them and eat them cold. And therefore, they were trying to argue the same thing that Greggs argued, is that we cook the chickens to sell them. But I think it fell flat a little bit because they keep them in a hot counter. They advertise them as hot food, etc., etc. And so HMRC said, no way.
Yeah, the ruling that allows you that Greggs use is that a product is served what they call incidentally hot.
And that's completely true, because if you go to Greggs, you cannot ask for a hot sausage roll if they don't have fresh ones in the counter. And it sounds like we go to Greggs a lot, and we actually do, because it's next door to the gym, isn't it? So you can't ask for a hot sausage roll. If you do ask for a hot sausage roll, they tell you no, and you just get whatever sausage roll there is there, regardless whether it's fresh out the oven or it's stone cold.
I think
Morrison's isn't the same, though. You go to Morrison's and they advertise hot chickens and you expect a hot chicken. So I don't know why they were claiming that it shouldn't be vatable. I think
they're under immense pressure in their business, is the general consensus. And they're just looking for anything they can to claw a bit back. But to be honest with you, looking at this story, their real downfall came when the court brought the chicken to them and they came labelled in hot food bags, labelled with a big warning that says, caution, hot product.
Yeah, they're deliberately served hot. They're advertised hot. So they didn't really have a leg to stand on. And I think that's the point here, really, isn't it? Is that Morrison's, I think, were trying it on here and they knew. And a lot of the time as a business owner, you know that you're treading on grey area. And if you know you're treading on a grey area, don't act all hard done by when it comes back to bite you in the arse.
No, took the money away
risk.
and know that you're going to, but, and fight if you want, but you can't. I don't think Morrison's are necessarily suggesting they are playing hard done to here. It's just the story is the story. I'm sure it seems pretty obvious that they knew they were going to lose this, but they had a go at it because they were trying to play that it was incidentally hot.
Yeah.
And you never know which way it can go. So fair play to them. Right, let's move on to part 1 of the mini-series. So Claire, part 1 this week, increase your profits. The first of your strap lines in your business. Frame this for us. Why do you talk about this? Why is this important?
Well, at the end of the day, there is a direct link between profit, cash and growth. It's a cycle actually that we have. And you make profit, you convert your profit into cash. And then the more cash you have, the quicker growth you can get.
Investment. Yeah.
And the more growth you get, the more profit you get. So the more cash you get, the more growth you get. So it's this cyclical thing that if you can get some real traction behind you, then you can really grow quite rapidly and have a very successful business. But of course, a lot of businesses really struggle with cash flow, but ultimately, if you don't make profit, there's going to be no cash there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's so vital that if you're struggling for cash flow or you're not making the money that you need in the business or the cash isn't available, actually have a look at your profitability as well, because that might be the key to what's going on here.
And I think we're coming from a perspective at the moment where this is particularly poignant because we think we're going into a continuation of a fairly tough economy, don't we? Where actually getting growth is going to be the most challenging thing that your business can do. So where this becomes really interesting is what happens if next year your turnover is only flat and you're not able to grow it? Can you still grow your bottom line? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, there's loads of opportunities out there to not have to go chasing new customers and not have to go and do these bold, big growth initiatives that actually you could just make more money by doing exactly the same thing in 2026. And I think that's the key here, isn't it? Is absolutely, it's important for a lot of us entrepreneurs that we want to grow and we do want to keep pushing forward and things like that. But some people are at a different stage of life. Some people don't want that. They're happy with what they got and they just want to get more profit out of it and they want more money in their pocket at the end of the month. And this is what this is all about. Getting more profit from your existing customers, your existing sales, and not having to go and chase new stuff all the time.
Right. I think if we don't shut up and speed up, this is going to be less of a mini series and more of a mini budget and turn into a maxi problem. So 5 things that you can do. Number 1, Claire, please state the glaringly obvious.
Pricing review. The amount of customers, I'd say it's less than 1% of customers that I speak to that have any formal process around reviewing their prices to their customers. So that's putting prices up to existing customers, putting prices up to new customers, etc., etc. And a lot of people that do think that they have something in place, often they're very reactive. So they say that if their suppliers put their prices up, then they'll push that onto their customers. But as a minimum, you need to be reviewing your prices annually as an absolute minimum. So you can do that one or two ways. You can either have this big annual price increase where you review all your customers at the same time and change pricing, or you could do it the way that we do it. And that's because we have customers sign up to 12-month contracts. We do it on a case-by-case basis each time that contract comes up for renewal. But as an absolute minimum, you need to be reviewing your prices annually. In difficult economic times like we're in at the moment, in times of inflation in particular, I'd be saying, really you should be looking at your pricing quarterly. I'm not necessarily saying change your pricing. I'm saying review your pricing quarterly. Make sure it all still makes sense from a cost base.
Great.
But there is so much opportunity there just to put 1 or 2% on your prices that I honestly don't think would make your customers flinch based on inflation at the moment.
Honestly, I'm a massive advocate for this because in March last year, I put our prices up in one of our businesses by 20% and there has been zero change in the amount other than a 20% increase of the... In fact,
your conversion has gone up.
It did marginally go up by a few percent actually, so it didn't drop at all. And because it was pure profit margin, actually, other than paying a bit of commission to the staff, 18% of the 20% went straight into our pocket on the bottom line. Remarkable. Don't be as scared as you think you are that your customers won't pay an increased price, especially at the moment where people are used to seeing prices go up everywhere.
Yeah. Now, I would say that, my years when I was a finance director in the corporate world, I was responsible for pricing as well. And we always had this 80-20 rule. We would look at our top 20 customers, or our top 20% of customers, depending on what it is for you. Look at the top 20% of customers and take those out of that bulk price increase. So your bottom 80% of customers, they're going to be the ones that get this blanket price increase of like 1, 2, 3, 4%, whatever you think is relevant. Your top 20%, be a bit more strategic with. They might be the ones that you need to have these conversations with directly, that you might not apply price increase to, that you might have a slightly different conversation with.
Yeah, the way I would frame that is probably high touch price increases and low touch price increases is a good way of splitting your customer base, isn't it? Great. Perfect. So number 1 is put your prices up. Well, review your prices. Hopefully that means putting them up. Number 2, Claire.
Challenge price increases from your suppliers. I don't think there's anybody that hasn't had a price increase passed on to them in the last 12 months, be it your mobile phone contract, your energy bills, your rent that you pay, even, your staff to a certain extent as well. So whenever you'll be notified of these price increases, you might think it's just 1 or 2% or, it's not worth my time, but just go back and just say no and see what the reaction is. Because I know from my experience responsible for pricing that those that challenged enabled us to then, we would 99% of the time do something. We would say, okay, we won't increase it by 5%, we'll do 4% instead. Yeah. You can get something just for the sake of sending an email. It's a really, really quick win. So challenge every price increase that comes your way, because if you just accept it, you get the full price increase. 9 times out of 10, if you challenge it, you will get a reduction in the price increase.
And thinking back to my corporate days, and I'm sure you think exactly the same thing, when we sat down and we budgeted price increase, we had an expectation that only a certain percentage of the customers would end up taking the price increase. So you would budget, we're going to put the price up to 100% of people, but in your budget you go,
not everyone's going to
probably
take
end up being 70% of people or something like that. So businesses do expect not to put prices up to some people. So challenge it.
And likewise, sort of just going back to point 1 a little bit, when companies are doing their budgets, they just automatically imply, our overheads are going to go up by X amount. So the money's there swimming around, which makes it a bit easier to push price increases onto your customers too. So 1 and 2, both around price increases. Absolutely introduce an annual review for your customers. And secondly, do not just blanket accept price increases from your suppliers. Challenge them.
Awesome. So moving on to number 3, Claire.
Number 3, this is one of my favourite ones, and I think is probably the most powerful for the businesses that we start working with, and this is to look at utilisation. So utilisation is about how you're using the assets available to your business. So in my business, for example, we're a service-based business, so my assets are my team. Like utilisation for us is all about what is the amount of turnover that each of my accountants can manage, for example. In a logistics business, the utilisation is how much money can each of those trucks make? How many days can we get that truck on the road? How many miles can we get that truck to drive? And I've got other customers that do like construction-based work and things like that. So then that's all about how much work can that team manage. So you need to find a way to break your business down into units, into people, into teams, into assets, whatever it is for your business, and find a way to track the utilisation of each of those divisions or areas.
It's probably like the easiest way to think of it is the biggest cost attached to delivering the service or product that you're providing, isn't it? Operationally. Yeah.
And sometimes you might just think that, like when I do it with my team, for example, the finance managers, they're the people that, they tend to have like 6 to 10 clients each. And we look at what they're targeted on and we see disparities. And then we start to dig into why are they different? And for one of my team, they're different because they were the first person that we took on, and actually the customers are probably underpriced. Yeah. That's the reality. But for another one of my team members, they're not at the speed that we need them to be at. So we need to revisit some training and things like that. Or it might be that they've got really difficult customers or something like that. There's always a reason why. And that's what's important to do, is get to the root cause of what is the issue here.
Yeah.
And when you can identify the issue, you can fix it, and then you can make your business more profitable, because essentially this is about making sure that as many of your assets as close to maximum utilisation or capacity as possible.
Brilliant. So number 3 is look at utilisation. Number 4, Claire.
Reviewing your direct debits. Now, I know I said I did this whole piece at the start about cost cutting and things like that, but we're not talking about cost cutting here. Like, most business owners that we work with probably have several £1,000s of direct debits going out every month from their business, software fees, things like that. And it's just a case of making sure that you've got these easily tagged in Xero or on your bank somehow, so you can just get this list quarterly and review it. Now, what we do is we get a quarterly list, I stick it into a spreadsheet, and every team member has to go in and tell me if they use that software or not.
Yeah.
So then you can glaringly see it's obvious where people aren't using the direct debits that you're paying for, or there's only one person using it and you're thinking, okay, why are you using that? Can we switch you to what everybody else in the team's using? That type of thing.
This is a kind of a new skill that people have had to adopt and think about since the adaptation of the subscription model that's become a thing in the last 20 years. It just wasn't a thing before. Now, the business world preys on the fact that they can take those recurring incomes from you and you'll forget about how useful that product or service is to you or your business. And consumers are a massive problem for this. Problem as a consumer, opportunity as a business, if we were talking about the opportunities, but B2B are probably even worse because they're terrible at reviewing their costs and how much stuff they've got going through their businesses often that is just not bringing them the value it should do anymore. It's that, and we're going to have so much more of this with AI. People are going to spend a fortune on AI software, and actually they're going to go, yeah, we should have had less team members, but they're going to potentially have the same team, but all this extra cost. And just because they're not reviewing whether it's actually bringing value to their business or even if they're continuing to use it, but the subscription keeps coming out.
Yeah. So we do this in Xero. We tag, there's something called contact groups. So you can essentially tag all of your customers and suppliers with a group or a tag. And so if something's a direct debit, we tag it as a direct debit, which means we can just easily run a list from the system every quarter and see how much we're spending on the direct debits and what the annual spend is and go from there. So we've got some really cool ways of doing that. But yeah, just get it reviewed, because especially when you get to a 7-figure business, you're very unlikely as a business owner to be sitting there looking at your bank statements. You know, it's not like when you started, you literally knew every penny that went in and out your bank account. But as you get bigger, you lose track of that. You lose visibility of these smaller things that just really, really add up.
Yeah. Perfect. And then the final one, which we also have a little bit of a freebie for you today, don't we?
Yes. And this is about understanding the margins of your individual products or services or customers. So whatever it is for your business. So for some people, it might be relevant, like us, for example, we don't have many different products. We've probably got, like 10 services that we offer. So we could absolutely look at what each service costs us to deliver and what we charge for it, therefore what our margin is. Yeah. For maybe product-based businesses, or if you've got more services, you're going to group them into product ranges or product families. And for other businesses, it might be relevant to group them by customer type.
Yeah.
So for example, like you in the estate agency world, I know you don't do lettings, but you'd probably group them between, maybe you do like house sales, you do lettings, you do HMOs, that type of thing. And what you want to do is understand the gross profit margin of each of your different ranges. And the reason why you want to do this is because you want to see where the most profit is coming from in your business, because those are the product ranges that you need to push the most.
Yep.
Because if you've got a product range that only makes 10% margin, but you've got another product range that makes 50% margin, well, which one do you want to go and push to sell? The 50% one, right? Because it puts more money in your pocket at the end of the day. So that's why having that visibility of where your profit's coming from, but also where your profit could be at risk as well, is just really, really powerful thing to put in front of yourself and also in front of your team, so that when they're thinking about maybe making recommendations to customers, what they're selling, what they're pricing, all of those types of things, they've got this information to just tweak those little ideas and sprouts of decision making in their heads.
Amazing. And we covered a whole episode on this last year that you can listen to, called the KPI Workshop Live. It's episode 86 if you want to go back and listen to it. That'll give you a much deeper dive into this whole subject we talk about. There's also a link to download a KPI spreadsheet, a worksheet on that episode. And I'm also going to put the same link to download that KPI worksheet on this episode show notes. So you can go to our website, download that KPI spreadsheet if you want to do the work on your margins by product and service to look at how you can increase your profits in that area. So we're going to do that for this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's
increase your profits.
And I think the point with this is that we think that that's what business owners should be looking at for 2026. Because of the uncertain times, we think it's going to be incredibly difficult to get new customers. Yep. So you really just need to focus on getting more out of your existing business. So number one is annual pricing review, or minimum annual pricing review, ideally quarterly. Number two is about challenging price increases from your suppliers. Don't just accept them. Number three, look at utilisation. Make sure that you are sweating your assets as much as possible in your business. Number four, review your direct debits every quarter. It's a really, really easy, quick win. Don't let them build up because you're just eking money for no reason. And number five, understand your margins by product, service, or customer so that you really understand where the profitability in your business is coming from.
Amazing. Brilliant. Well, thank you for joining us for today's podcast. The next one is a very, very short momentum away. It's tomorrow morning. So do tune in again tomorrow, 6 a.m, where we move on to improve your cash flow as part 2 of this week's mini-series as we get you started for 2026. And we'll see you again tomorrow.